Finally tonight, he's a senior partner at a law office and the hottest thing on the internet. His name is Thumper, and he's the honorary senior partner of this law office in Ventura, California. So it was only fitting that Thumper received his own website. Thumper's popularity is now spreading worldwide. His owners say Thumper gets about 75 messages a day. That's more than the law office itself. He's so popular, Thumper has been asked to appear on a TV show and has made the list of who's cool in America. As you can see, Thumper isn't taking fame all that seriously.
Well, Thumper probably owns a bunch of Microsoft stock, too.
I think he sold today.
Hey, that's it. See you tomorrow.
Okay, take care.
March 5th, 1996.
Voting in 10 states across the country, from New England
Robert Dole, because I think he's experienced.
to the South
I kind of like Steve Forbes, actually. We need more businessmen and less lawyers.
and in the West.
We've got to get our own act straightened out first, and I think Buchanan can do that.
With more than 250 delegates at stake, it's the biggest primary day so far. And the clear front-runner for the Republican presidential nomination,
Well, I know they call this a Junior Tuesday, but it seems pretty super to us, and we're very proud that you're here tonight.
tonight, Bob Dole, moving into high gear.
This is an ABC News Nightline special. The 96 vote. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
Perhaps there is a special little corner of hell reserved for journalists, where those of us from the electronic media will be forced to watch and listen to an endless loop of our own inaccurate analyses and projections. To our colleagues from the print media, it will look something like this. The recent parade of gloomy headlines about Bob Dole, doubts about Dole, dead man walking. Dole has dug himself a hole, can he climb out? The point being that Bob Dole tonight is a political Lazarus. ABC political director Hal Bruno reports tonight that Lamar Alexander has decided to bow out of the race and will make the announcement tomorrow. ABC News has also learned that Senator Dick Lugar has already made the same decision and will tomorrow officially become another footnote to the 1996 presidential race. There are others, of course, still very much in the race, but Senator Dole has administered a sound thrashing to his closest rival tonight, Pat Buchanan, in all 8 states where primaries were held. And as for Steve Forbes, were he not financially independent, he might also have been obliged to withdraw from the race. It is far from over, but as I turn to my colleague Peter Jennings at ABC's election headquarters in New York, it seems fair to say, Peter, that this has been a banner day for Bob Dole.
Yeah, I think it has, Ted, and in fact, looking at that headline, I think he's began to dig himself out of that hole in South Carolina on Saturday and has had a measure of momentum ever since. He's campaigned everywhere where other candidates had to pick their targets, and there's no question he has the momentum coming out of tonight to go on to the rest of the primaries. But it's probably also fair to say, as we'll hear, I think, in the analysis tonight, that there still are doubts out there about Bob Dole, not to take anything away from his victory tonight, but we were looking through the exit polls earlier to find that in almost every state, almost half the people who voted want someone other than the candidates who are currently running. So he's out of the hole and he's on his way. The other candidates, 2 of them at least, stay in the race. Let's take folks through now what it looks like as of pretty much the end of the evening. Starting up in New England, where Dole had the support of the very influential popular Governor William Weld. Massachusetts, a victory for Dole over Pat Buchanan, Steve Forbes coming in 3rd. In Maine, a lot of the independent voters did go for Dole. Some people thought they might go for Buchanan. Fairly convincing victory over Pat Buchanan there. In Connecticut, Steve Forbes' campaign manager said this was the biggest disappointment of the night for them. He thought he actually might be able to take Connecticut at one point, but a very convincing victory for Bob Dole. And look at the spread over Pat Buchanan there. Rhode Island was pretty much Dole's for the taking because Steve Forbes and Buchanan were not on the ballot. And Lamar Alexander, you can see Lamar Alexander fading in all sorts of places this evening. In Vermont, a certain irony here for Richard Lugar because he wanted very much to get into the double digits. He managed to. In Vermont tonight, 14% of the vote for him, but not enough to continue the campaign. In Maryland, in the mid-Atlantic states, Bob Dole cut into the vote, our machines run a bit amok there, but in Maryland there, Dole managed to cut into the Buchanan support there among independents there, and he did very well over Buchanan. Georgia was the big one of the night. That was the big prize. That's where Alexander wanted very much to do well. In fact, Alexander, I think, probably found that in Georgia, as much as anything tonight, the decision was made for him. By the way, take a look at the Georgia congressional map here that's popped up again. The delegates in Georgia are awarded on the basis of congressional districts, and Dole wins 9, Buchanan wins only that 1 so far. There's one other to be awarded up in the northwest corner of the country, up in Red Clay, Georgia. Buchanan only getting 1 congressional district in Georgia tonight. Let's move out west now, where a lot of people told us they were voting their heads rather than their hearts. A lot of people sentimentally wanted Pat Buchanan, but they voted their heads here, went with Bob Dole, many of them telling us that they did so because they believed he could beat Bill Clinton. Onwards now to Minnesota, where the Republican caucuses continue. This is a question of activism, particularly in the party work. The interesting thing about this result so far, not complete yet, is that if anybody was going to get the religious conservatives in this state, it was Pat Buchanan, and in fact, Bob Dole appears to have done quite well there. Let's take a look as the nation as a whole. It is, as Ted said at the beginning, a Bob Dole evening in every respect. Now, with all of these important Tuesdays in March now, this is a race for delegates all the way to the convention in San Diego in August. And Bob Dole, if you look in that right-hand column, that's the most important one, is now well ahead of his colleagues. But Forbes, enough delegates to the Go-To convention. Pat Buchanan intends to stay in the race. Steve Forbes said earlier this evening, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen, but he doesn't mind the heat at all. Now, we have a couple things about Bob Dole this evening. First, here's a little bit of a speech he made to his supporters when victory was assured in Washington. He had not taken as much time by any means to appear here as he did earlier. There's Senator D'Amato, his national campaign chairman, who had predicted earlier in the evening that Senator Dole was going to have the clean sweep that he, in fact, did. And he gave, Senator Dole did, his only television interview this evening to ABC's John Cochran, and here is a portion of that.
First, let me say congratulations to you both.
Thank you very much.
You must be exhausted.
Not bad. No, there's something about winning that sort of keeps your adrenaline flowing. But it's been a good day, and we're going to just keep on working.
What was the turning point? South Carolina?
South Carolina. Get down to Elizabeth's home area, North and South Carolina. This was South Carolina. We had a great organization there. They did a good job, and we just sort of won across the board. And I think it sent a message to a lot of other states.
At this point, are you confident you'll be the Republican nominee?
Well, I've been saying that in my speeches lately. Bob Dole will be the Republican nominee. I feel confident, but I realize that you take one step at a time in this business, and I don't want to be overconfident.
Steve Forbes seemed to get your vote more than Pat Buchanan.
He did because, maybe, I don't think it's because of all the money he has. I think it's because he'd say Bob Dole voted for the subway, or Bob Dole voted for a ski lodge in Idaho. Well, you know, that, I guess there's a grain of truth in some of that, but he talked about Washington politicians. I don't think anybody in Washington ever thought anything that negative. But in any event, it's a free country. He's entitled to spend his money. He did.
Do you foresee at some point you're getting together with Pat Buchanan, Lamar Alexander, all these people, and trying to get it all together?
I hope so. I mean, I've always been trying to bring people together, not only my own party, but outside the party. So I would hope we could sit down and talk about the future and talk about how do we defeat Bill Clinton.
Do you get tired of being called the establishment candidate?
Oh, not really. I mean, I think one thing I saw in the exit poll in South Carolina, 97% of the voters who were looking for experience voted for Bob Dole. And I think there has been a change. We're getting the undecided voters. And I think people are saying, well, wait a minute. What's so wrong with experience? This guy knows how to get things done. He's able to work with people. He's not going to take us over the edge. So if that's establishment, then I guess I'm establishment.
Well, I've been following you around. You've run me into the ground. Do you think you've...
I think we've beaten it down. We have about 35 to 50 press people on the plane. They're back there sleeping, and I'm making phone calls, and they rotate and take a couple of days off. I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I keep on going.
And winning helps, too, doesn't it?
Winning helps.
Congratulations to you both.
Thank you very much.
Bob Dole is the Energizer Bunny. Ted, that's better than Lazarus. At any rate, standing alone now in Dole headquarters in Washington is ABC's John Cochran. John, what's the strategy now? Where does Dole go now? On what does he concentrate?
He heads down to Texas tomorrow to meet with the governor of Texas, who is the son of the former president of the United States, George Bush. The governor of Texas will endorse Bob Dole. Mr. Bush elder will not, however. What he will do is give him a how do you do and shake his hands and say, I'm glad things are going well for you. George Bush, the former president, wants to officially remain neutral, but he'll let Bob Dole know he's pleased what's happening.
Payback time for earlier kindnesses, right?
Mm-hmm. He thinks that Bob Dole carried a lot of water for him when he was president, and that Bob Dole did a good job as majority leader. Then he'll go down to Florida. He's going to spend a lot of time in Florida between now and Super Tuesday. And Peter, what's interesting about that is he expects to win that primary. He's not campaigning so much for that primary. He's already started the general election. He knows that Florida will be a very difficult state when he goes up against Bill Clinton, and he's already starting that.
Okay, John, thanks very much. Ted, just one comment from Steve Forbes here is not falling into line behind Bob Dole. He said tonight there are now 3 candidates left in the field. It's thinning out, and Bob Dole still represents politics as usual.
Well, numerically, he is correct. But as you have noted, and as we have all noted this evening, this is Bob Dole's night, and there's not a great deal for the other candidates to say. But that doesn't mean that they have all given up. When we come back, reports from the political camps of Pat Buchanan, Steve Forbes, and Lamar Alexander.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Buick.
As sure as the sun will rise across America, the families that travel will have one common need: to be safe. That's why so many American families put their trust in Buick LeSabre. In fact, they've made LeSabre the best-selling full-size car in America 4 years in a row. Buick LeSabre, the American family car.
Some people are doing more business than ever on Fridays.
The Denver deal doable, Donnie? Good.
Help your business do more business with Sprint's amazing offer. For 1 full year, Fridays are free.
No, I'll call you back. It's Friday.
Every long-distance call you make on Fridays is free. The rest of the week, you get Sprint's great low-flat rate.
Okay, so I'll call you next Friday.
Call now. 1-800-598-5000 for free Fridays at work. Only from Sprint Business.
Wednesday, hit the road. Hitch coast to coast with Jay Shadler. At every turn, a different story.
You won't believe this. I picked up a hitchhiker, and he's going to hold me hostage.
Exhilarating and poignant. The road trip of a lifetime. Primetime, Wednesday.
Many successful businesses get their start at a kitchen table. And LaserQuick is there to help along the way by providing service and expertise to help a business grow. With printing, copying, and computer graphics for all your important projects. At LaserQuick, you'll always find competitive prices, helpful service, and convenient locations, so you can concentrate on making your business fly. Given the right printer, anything's possible. LaserQuick.
You lived through a winter to remember. Now keep it forever with Channel 2's Wild Winter VHS tape. It's 2 hours packed full of powerful pictures from the wind, ice, and snowstorms and the floods. This keepsake tape takes you up in the air and up close to the stories shot by Channel 2's award-winning news crews. To order, send 1995 to KATU Wild Winter Tape, P.O. Box 2, Portland, Oregon 97207. All profits benefit Spirit of the Northwest Flood Relief.
Tonight, as we've said, reports out of the Lamar Alexander campaign indicate that the former Tennessee governor will drop out of the race tomorrow. Tonight in West Palm Beach, Florida, as he was about to board a plane, Alexander, though, would not confirm that story.
Governor, comment on the ABC report. You're going home tomorrow and calling it quits.
I'm going to Clearwater.
So you're not going to Nashville? You're not calling it quits?
I haven't heard the results yet from tonight. I'm going to Clearwater.
No way you're going home and calling it off.
Right now, I'm walking right into several cameras. I can't tell where the airplane is.
Stay on in Florida tomorrow.
I'm going to do my best to do that. I think Florida is going to be the decisive state.
Back up, please.
So are we definitely on a bus trip
right
tomorrow?
Right up there, Governor. Thank you. I'm looking forward to that.
ABC's Catherine Cryer, who's been covering the Lamar Alexander campaign, is in Clearwater, Florida. Catherine, these are difficult times for a candidate. Everybody knows he's going to quit. He knows he's going to quit, but he doesn't want to say it. What can you tell us?
That he's going to quit.
Yeah.
ABC, as you reported earlier, has confirmed through several sources that the plan is to head up to Nashville tomorrow at the Lowe's Hotel and to make a noon announcement that he is withdrawing from the race. In addition, we have confirmed that media buys have been pulled in Florida and the plans have been canceled to get on that bus and progress through campaigning. When you say that media buys have been canceled, that's really, I mean, that underscores it, that underlines it. Once you start dumping out on television. Absolutely. In a state like Florida, this is where he was going to make his last stand. He talked about how much money he had raised and was prepared to pour it into Florida as the line in the sand with Bob Dole. With that gone, there's nothing left. What was it that broke the back of the Alexander campaign? Well, I think tonight probably did it. The death rattle, if you will, has been shaking around this campaign since South Carolina. He put a lot of time and energy into that state. He did the same in Georgia. And over the last several weeks, he's been moving that line in the sand. South Carolina was critical. Then all of a sudden it was Georgia. Then it was the final stand in Florida. But when the numbers started coming in tonight, that's just not something that a candidate can look at and proceed on. Catherine Cryer, thank you. Despite his poor showing tonight, Steve Forbes sounded like a candidate who was not about to quit, saying Republicans have three choices.
Symbolized by Senator Dole, which is essentially the status quo. A second choice is symbolized by Mr. Buchanan, of an America that turns inward and eventually on each other in the name of cultural purity. There's a third way to go, which is the vision that I'm presenting to the voters of a new America, really the old America, self-confident, forward-looking, outward-looking, not fearing the world, not fearing the future, but leading the world. ABC's Dean Reynolds is covering the Forbes campaign for ABC News tonight in Albany. Dean, here's a man who has had nothing but bad results for the last couple of weeks, and yet he keeps on going. Why?
Well, and he was here just a couple of minutes ago telling us he didn't think this performance was all that lackluster, although his standard of measurement is a bit mystifying. I think he believes now that there's a certain clarity in the race. It's Buchanan, Dole, and Forbes. He believes that Buchanan has maxed out, if you will, at 30% or less. He thinks that when people get a shot at him and Dole in a race head-to-head, that people will begin to take a closer look at Mr. Forbes. Now, I should point out that that is his view, and there is a debate within his campaign about the wisdom of carrying on much longer at the risk of crippling Senator Dole in a race against Bill Clinton.
But at the moment, no indication from the candidate.
None whatsoever. He seems to actually be getting better at this, to be enjoying it. And there is no indication at all that he is tiring of it. In fact, he intends to carry on into Texas and Florida, and his top aides are somewhat bemused.
Dean, I'm afraid we're losing you a little bit there, but we only have a couple of minutes left, and I need to talk to ABC's Michelle Norris, who is covering the Buchanan campaign. He and she are in Miami tonight. Michelle, we didn't hear anything from Pat Buchanan today.
Well, he spoke on the plane on the way here, and the plane will be arriving in just a few minutes, so we all look forward to knowing what he had to say. This has been a bad day for Pat Buchanan. His so-called revolution fell flat, and that broad-based army of peasants he was supposed to be leading seemed to have put their pitchforks down to back an establishment candidate. Nonetheless, he says he's in this to the end, even if it means chasing Bob Dole all the way to the convention. So the question now is, what role will he play? He's become the problem child of the Republican Party, and if he amasses enough delegates, he'll have a certain amount of currency going into the convention, and he may be able to make some demands about a speech at the convention regarding the abortion plank within the Republican platform and concerning the selection of a conservative vice president.
In terms of money, organization, he's got to pick his spots very carefully. What would you guess are going to be the major focuses of the Buchanan campaign over the next couple of weeks?
In 2 words, the South. He's going to be focusing on Florida, Tennessee, Oklahoma, areas where he feels his protectionist trade message will do very well. where his social conservatism, what he calls the conservatism of the heart, will play very well. But as you say, he does not have the money or the organization, and for a campaign like that, momentum is key, and he's lost that tonight.
Michelle, thank you. Pat Buchanan had set his sights on Georgia as the place where he would break the Dole momentum. Jim Wooten is standing by in Marietta, Georgia. Jim, it didn't happen. But he came closer in Georgia than anywhere else.
Yes, because there is a natural constituency for Buchanan. But I expect that Mr. Buchanan is feeling a bit of Dixie deja vu tonight. You know, 4 years ago in 1992, he came marching through Georgia. And 4 years later, he comes back in again with his sort of tailor-made message, maverick message to angry white Southern males and the Bible Belt Christian conservatives. And it still didn't work. He still didn't crack the Southern code. He pulled out all the stops. He pushed all the buttons that he knew how to push. He reminded voters here of his conservative ancestors who fought in the Civil War. He equated Dixie to We Shall Overcome. He even developed a bit of a draw between Arizona and here, and it still didn't work. So in 1996, as in 1992, Buchanan winds up looking at a winner in Georgia who is of the establishment wing of the party. I expect he's very disappointed.
Jim, very quickly, there is absolutely no indication, though, that Pat Buchanan is going to pull out of this thing anytime soon.
Not that any of us know about. He lives off the land. He doesn't require as much money as a candidate like Bob Dole or any of the others might require. He doesn't have a great deal of money, but as Michelle has pointed out, he does run a sort of minimalist campaign, and he can survive for quite some time. I expect that one of the things that really disappoints Pat Buchanan is that after he more or less single-handedly put Phil Gramm out of the race, he did not fill that vacuum. Bob Dole did.
Jim, thank you. When we come back, Peter Jennings and ABC's Lynn Scher on the meaning of tonight's primary results.
You could play in the rain. You could frolic in the snow. And when the sun shines, you could peel off the rest of your inhibitions. The Saab 900 convertible. Lease a 96 Saab 900S convertible for $349 a month.
6 men have 3 hours.
You don't believe me. What are you doing up here?
Who else is going to do it? You? To board and rescue Flight 343 5 miles above the Earth, because on March 15th, it's coming down.
You have your orders. Execute them.
One way or another. Kurt Russell and Steven Seagal.
We're not going to make it! You are!
Executive Decision. Rated R. Starts Friday, March 15th at a theater near you.
Next time, making your money grow. What's the one mutual fund you should buy? Plus results of Mini Super Tuesday.
Good Morning America.
Here on ABC. When wild weather hits, stay safe with the Channel 2 News Storm Team.
We'll be out in the weather showing you what to expect. You get more live weather reports and accurate storm tracking.
Plus, complete listings on all road conditions and school closures.
And that means the Channel 2 Storm Team gives you the best coverage of the storm from start to finish.
When wild weather hits, keep it on Channel 2 News.
This storm has deepened rapidly
and really causes some problems.
So that's a reality.
Your storm team in the spirit of the Northwest.
Ben was introverted when he came here to our school, and he had an interest in watching the weather every day, especially Matt's show. And so we just took it from there.
Hello, Matt. Nice to see you, Ben. Came to give you a little visit. This is Weather Watcher Appreciation Day. There's our high and there's our lows.
Ben has really got turned on and has turned around academically.
A lot of it has to do with Ben's involvement in the weather program and Channel 2.
What's really funny is just watching my weather reports on TV.
In the spirit of the Northwest, KATU encourages you to share a meal with family or friends. You'll not only eat better, you'll feel better, too.
Well, it makes a family a unit when you sit down for mealtime. Parents have a chance to tell their kids that we really love you. You want them to grow up, be the best that they can. So the key ingredient is to feed them, and feed them well.
Resetting the Family Table is a public service of the Oregon Dairy Council and KATU Spirit 2.
before we try to get inside the voters' minds and figure out why they voted like they did in various parts of the country today, just a couple of quick more notes about Lamar Alexander's mind. One of his campaign officials tells our Dennis O'Brien, who's been with him from the outset, that he's probably going to endorse Dole in the next couple of days. And tomorrow afternoon, after he makes this departure announcement from the campaign, he is going to attend the funeral of his late great friend Minnie Pearl, the great star of the Grand Ole Opry, who lived next door to him in the governor's mansion in Nashville. Now, what were the strengths and weaknesses of the candidate of the hour, Bob Dole? We go to Lynn Scherr, who's been looking at the exit polls all day long. Lynn?
Peter, Bob Dole won partly on the issues that he campaigned on, his ability to beat Bill Clinton and his experience in government. Now, those were not the top issues cited by voters today. In fact, those two issues tied for number 3. But Bob Dole won so overwhelmingly among those who cited them that it made a very large difference. Of course, the big prize tonight was Georgia. And in fact, it was the most closely contested of the states. But even there, Senator Dole actually won a group that Pat Buchanan seemed to be identified with, the independent voters. Those, of course, the ones who tend to be very anti-establishment. Well, more good news for Bob Dole in Georgia and elsewhere. Pat Buchanan was simply seen as too extreme in his political views across the country. In Georgia, 51% said he was too extreme, and it gets worse from there. In Colorado, 59% said he was too extreme. In Connecticut, 65%. And even in groups that were claimed by Pat Buchanan, Bob Dole was in fact competitive. Take those who called themselves members of the religious right. Incidentally, 28% said that today. Pat Buchanan got 43% of their vote. He won the category. But Bob Dole got 36%, and that is very competitive. In addition, voters rejected Pat Buchanan on issues that he campaigned hard on. Limiting foreign trade. Voters said that they thought foreign trade actually created jobs. It didn't steal them. An anti-abortion plank in the party platform. Most Republicans said no, they didn't want it. Pat Buchanan was right that the #1 issue was the economy and jobs. But once again, take a look at how that vote split. Of those who said it was the most important issue, 27% for Pat Buchanan, but 47% for Bob Dole. Still, Bob Dole has problems of his own. While his own age, which of course is 72, does not seem to have hurt him, the age of his constituents might. He wins big among those who are 65 and over, 63% of their vote. But of those who are under 65, he gets only 41%. That latter is a much larger group. And Peter, of course, Senator Dole would like to have much more of their support.
Lynn, we heard Dean Reynolds say that Steve Forbes thought it was a lackluster performance, and we haven't seen Alexander go anywhere at all. Tell us what the voters' judgment has been on both of these issues.
Well, what's interesting about Steve Forbes, of course, his big issue was the flat tax. 51% of the voters today said that they wanted a flat tax, but guess what? Steve Forbes finished 3rd among them, so he just was not seen as the guy to get the job done. As for Lamar Alexander, 63% of the people who voted for Lamar Alexander today said they would have preferred if someone else were running. That, incidentally, is something that happens straight across the board. There is not strong support for any of these candidates. As a matter of fact, 43% of Bob Dole's own voters said they wish there had been another candidate running.
Okay,
Peter?
Lynn. Yeah, thanks very much. That's very interesting because that reflects very much what our own reporters found at polling stations all across the country. People were just not all that happy about their vote. And Ted, for Bob Dole, as you know as well as anybody else, that's a real problem as he moves out from here.
Indeed. When we come back, we will be joined by Nightline's Jeff Greenfield, who will take a look at all of that.
This is L.A. We have tons of friends. This is Posh. This is my wife. This is my neighbor. This is my son-in-law. This is my very good neighbor. This is my #2 daughter. Hey. This is my neighbor, John. When I found out that I needed surgery, it was kind of a shock.
Luckily, it turned out.
Aflac really helped protect our savings. Just really took the worry away.
I will cling to the old brother.
The first solo I ever sang in church was Sweet Hour Prayer. I was 15. My family was proud. And now I'm proud. I get a chance to sing it again for you and your family.
I love to tell the story. Will be my theme.
There are 33 beautiful old-time hymns on this album, and they are precious memories, with hope and inspiration for today and tomorrow. These are songs I've known all my life, precious memories. I hope you'll let me and all of us on our album share them with you.
To order this beautiful album, mail $12.98 for 2 records or 2 cassettes, $16.98 for 1 long play CD to Andy Griffith. Box 4825, Department 8, Portland 97208. No recordings you've ever owned will enrich your life like these 33 Andy Griffith favorites. Don't delay. Mail to Andy Griffith, Box 4825, Department 8, Portland, Oregon 97208.